130 participants. I think we should just go ahead and start on time. It's 3 p.m. Israel time. And let me just introduce myself. For those of you who've been here a little bit earlier, show the behind the scene, but we're officially starting. My name is Zev Levi. I'm the Vice President of International Business Development at the Federation of Israeli Chamber of Commerce. And I'm very much excited to have this very unique and informative webinar with our partner from TPY Capital and BCG. And I think it's going to be a very exciting and very great webinar. So I'd like, first of all, to start with some thank you notes. And I'd like to start by thanking our partners in BCG, both BCG Israel and their foreign practices in the Gulf, in Dubai, and the various places where all the speakers are in currently. And a big shout out to TPY Capital founder and Guy Amin, who's I'm going to introduce him in a second, and his team for helping and partnering with us in this event. And of course, our partners in the Israeli Manufacturers Associations who helped us and are joining us forces with helping the Israeli companies finding their ways in the UAE. We're not going to be long with the welcoming remarks. I just want to do a bit of a housekeeping first and give you the rundown of how this is going to happen. So we're going to start with a very quick session, about 30 minutes with the overview and some Q&A. Thank you very much, Augustine. And then follow that, we're going to have 2 breakout rooms, which you have all registered to. So you're going to automatically go to the room that you have registered. There's going to be 2 rooms, one on free tech and telecommunication, and the other one is public sector and renewables. They're going to be moderated, and you will be able to ask questions in those rounds as well. In the first round of the general introduction, you will be able to ask questions, and we would like to encourage you to ask questions. So please feel free to type in your questions in the checkbox. It's just right underneath here in the toolbox underneath your screen. Just write whatever you want. We'll gather all the questions and we'll be able to answer them. There's a lot of know-how within the speakers today, and we want to address those questions that you may have. And regarding videos and stuff like that, please remain unmuted, and in the breakout rooms, the moderator itself will tell you what to do. We will not convene after the breakout session. So once the breakout session will finish, the webinar will finish, and we will send the recording of this webinar to everybody in an email right after the seminar. Okay, so this is about housekeeping. A little bit about the Chamber of Commerce. We're the biggest and oldest business organization in Israel. I just want to tell you that we have done a lot with the UAE and Bahrain. We're very much excited. We want to help Israeli companies to find their way safely and successfully within the Gulf. I have just came back from Manama, the capital of Bahrain, where I signed an MOU with the Bahrain Chamber of Commerce, one of the biggest private sector organization there with 60,000 organizations. And before that, we have signed a strategic partnership agreement with the Dubai Chamber of Commerce, which is really an enormous organization. It works a lot with the private sector within Dubai and the Gulf. We have access to those organizations, and we want to help Israeli companies together with them to find local distributors or partners, etc. So please feel free to contact us. With me today is also Adas Tzur from my team, who is dealing with the UAE, and Shai Hillel, who is helping us with this webinar. So thank you very much, and also thank you to Eldad from BCG Israel and to Augustine from BCG, who is helping us with everything. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Guy Amin, who is the founder and co-partner of TPY Capital. Just a little bit about TPY Capital. Is Tel Aviv-based venture capital. His later fund of 100 million was launched in June 2018. TPY invests in B2B enterprise software with a focus on revenue-generating companies. In terms of sectors, TPY is investing in companies that leverage the exceptionally growing power of data and machine intelligence, such as cloud infrastructure, AI, big data analytics, human augmentation, and productivity, such as dev tools and sales and marketing, collaboration tools, and quantum computing. guy who will take it from here is a great guy in general, ex-McKinsey, excuse me, BCG guys, and a Harvard graduate. Guy, take it from here.
Hey, thanks a lot, Zev, and everyone who's attending this, a little bit of a historic webinar. Many of them are taking place, but we're really delighted to have some of the top minds of BCG working in the Gulf for cumulatively dozens of years present to us today. So I'm Guy Amen from TPY Capital, Tel Aviv-based VC. I'm delighted to introduce you to Godfrey Sullivan, who leads BCG's financial institutions business in the UAE and is based out of Dubai. Godfrey has more than 20 years of consulting experience with financial institutions and regulators, business strategy, operation, and digital innovations. And he also works as a mentor for fintech startups across the Middle East. He will accompany me for the breakout on the fintech sector as well. So Godfrey, absolutely great to have you share your thoughts with us today. If you can wave your hand, people will recognize you here. Maybe we'll start off at the very top. What should we think about when we, as Israelis, think of the UAE?
So I think one of the first things to think about is that this is a federal country. So it's actually made up of 7 pretty autonomous emirates. And they come together under a broader federal government. So when you think about doing business in the UAE, you also need to think about, which are the most attractive emirates. Now, the 2 biggest ones are Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and they work together. But there's also a tension and rivalry between the 2 of them. I think the other things to remember, it's very similar to Israel. We have about 9 million people. We have a GDP per capita, which is pretty similar to Israel, and the population is very fragmented. So there's around 200 different nationalities. Each nationality group has their own community, their own restaurants and cafes, and it's 90% expat. So I think there's a few kind of unique characteristics about the country which make it pretty distinct from many other places around the world.
Great. And in Israel, there's been considerable talk about the UAE, now Bahrain, agreements and accords and what they mean for Israeli companies. Knowing the UAE the way that you do, what's the level of excitement there about these agreements?
So today is a pretty exciting day with the announcement in Israel and the visit from the UAE delegation. I think there's excitement at a couple of levels. So the government is very enthusiastic about this deal. Just during the course of this morning, there were 3 different major governmental entities which I've heard are doing important things in terms of preparing to work with Israel, ranging from government entities looking to hire Israeli nationals specifically, looking to work with Israeli companies, and planning engagements over in Israel. So there's a lot of excitement at the government level. At the business level, people are also very excited about different opportunities that may emerge. And I think if I was to categorize it into kind of 4 groupings, there's excitement about talent. I think that's a big challenge in the UAE. How do you really get top world-class talent to come over to this part of the world? There's excitement about tech, and Israel is known for all kinds of tech innovation, and many companies are looking to see how they can work together with them. There's excitement about tourists. The UAE is a very developed kind of tourist hub, and I think the opportunity for Israelis to come and spend vacations over here excites much of the tourism industry in a particularly challenging time. And then fourthly, I think there's excitement about travel. So, many of the people, such as myself, it's great to be able to go over and now fly directly, take the family on a holiday and visit a very important and kind of historical part of the world. So, it's a nice positive mood at the moment.
Got it. So what should an Israeli company know about if there's, you did mention it's a federation, but is there a way of doing business in the UAE? Are there certain do's or don'ts in interacting with the business sector in the UAE?
So I think a couple of points in that regard. I think firstly, just on timing. So now there is a fantastic aura and a really nice kind of honeymoon period where the whole country and many of the people are looking towards Israel and thinking, this is a great beginning of a partnership. What are the opportunities that can emerge? So I think timing for those of you on the call thinking about the market, I would certainly encourage you to do so quickly, because over the next kind of in 6 months, a year and a half time, things will revert to business as usual. So I think there's a nice window of opportunity where we can capture that enthusiasm and openness, and really make an impact in the market. So
you're saying before reality kicks in.
Well, the UAE welcomes people from all over the world, right? So pretty soon it's going to be, Israel will be the relations that they have with many other countries around the world. But it's the birth of something new. So I think it's a great opportunity in that respect.
And beyond the timing, are there certain recommendations?
Yeah. So I think the second one is, firstly acknowledging that the people that you'll be dealing with when you come over there, they're 90% expats. So you're as likely to be dealing with myself, an Indian or an Italian, in your business interactions, and a relatively small proportion of Emiratis, predominantly concentrated in government and in some leadership positions. So I think that's the consciousness of that diversity, and then specifically in dealing with the Emirati community, I think that there's clearly times of the year which are a little bit different from others. So during the Ramadan period, the country goes into a much quieter mode. Activities move towards the evening. There's more meetings that are beginning at 10, 11 o'clock at night. Once people have eaten in the evening, that's more accentuated in Abu Dhabi and Sharjah and the Northern Emirates than in Dubai. I think that's an important consideration. I think patience is another important characteristic. Things can move either very slowly or very quickly, and you will engage in a discussion, and there will be an enormous amount of enthusiasm. Lots of things will happen very quickly, and then something will fall, and things will suddenly go quiet for a while, and then a month later you get a phone call and suddenly it's high speed again. So I think that fluctuating kind of time dimension is another one to be conscious of.
Gotcha. So let's say an Israeli company or startup attending this webinar is getting excited about the potential that they hear from you. What should the company do in order to just initiate a process of penetrating the market? What would you say would be the immediate next step?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of alternatives. I think if you're a tech company, a fintech, agri-tech, that doesn't require to be physically in multiple locations in the UAE, you can set up a free zone company in one of 20 or so specific free zones in the UAE, and you can do that very rapidly. It takes a couple of days to set up, a couple of $1,000, and you can have employees in the market going and visiting various different businesses in the UAE, marketing your products and services. So I think that's a very kind of a first step. And you can hire a Brit, or you can bring over some of your team from Israel, or someone who's been in the market to help work on you understanding the market and how to move ahead. And you have 100% ownership of that company. No need for a partnership. 100% control and very easy to get going. If you're a business that is thinking about setting up a manufacturing entity or a retail outlet, then you would need an onshore license, so to set out outside of these 20 or so free zone clusters. And for that, you would need a local Emirati partner who would take a 51% share. Or there's a number of these agencies that act as partner agencies, and you have, you know, background legal agreements to ensure that the ownership is with you. That's a bit more expensive to set up and takes a bit longer to do. But those are the two paths forward. I think the second consideration is to say, you know, where are you going to set up? Because, you know, with these types of free zones, you have Internet City, you have Media City, you have Silicon Oasis. They're all targeted for different clusters of industries. But importantly, there's a distinction between Dubai and Abu Dhabi. And I think if, you know, to characterize this a little bit, as you think about where you're going to set up, Dubai is really the trading commercial hub, very vibrant, very cosmopolitan. And really private sector orientated, very dynamic and ambitious. Abu Dhabi, much more traditional, much more family orientated, and generally a bit slower, but the center of all the money, all the oil wealth, and the government and public sector operations. So I think that's the second choice as to, you know, where do you decide to set up the location. And then thirdly, you'll go to market. You know, how are you actually going to make traction with the relevant target customers or businesses in the UAE? And I think the nice thing about the market is, given it's so cosmopolitan and, you know, is relatively developed, there's lots of people who've been here for many years. So you can either hire someone directly who's been in the market for many years, you know, an expat who's worked in some of, you know, similar types of companies. You can hire a professional services firm like BCG, or I think there's maybe some others. Or the government is also very open to encouraging Israeli companies to come across. So depending on your sector, there's very often a government entity that's a window into that sector. So in fintech, for example, DIFC, the fintech hub of Hive, you can reach out to them. You say, look, we're interested in coming along. You know, can you help us engage in the market? And it's a very welcoming environment in that respect.
So Godfrey, to this point, and I'm actually referring to some questions that have been asked, but it also goes to the conversation that you and I had last week. There's a lot of noise. You know, some Israeli companies are thinking of going at it directly. Some are approaching or being approached by, I don't know how to even call them, but dozens, if not hundreds of finders that have some sort of a royal title associated with them and say, you know, we're going to open doors for you. How would you even consider or assess whether someone's legit, how credible they are, whether Israeli companies should work with an intermediary or go at it alone? And related to that, are there certain sources of information, depending on the sector, of course, but that you would say these are go-to resources for foreign companies looking into the UAE market?
Yeah, I think there's the UAE market is very open, and you have many people from many nationalities trying to make a quick buck and capitalize on economic opportunities. I would really encourage businesses to do it themselves. There's lots of people here who've been working for a long time in established companies, and just as you would recruit in Israel someone who's coming from a company with a very good reputation and background, I think there's good opportunities to recruit many people now, particularly in the downturn. There's lots of labor looking for opportunities in growing companies, and tap directly into different businesses using that kind of talent. I think these finders and I would treat them with a high degree of skepticism. it's a relatively easy market to kind of navigate. And so I think, you know, doing it yourselves, doing it through a government entity or a professional services firm is certainly kind of an attractive way forward. And I think you'll find it much easier than many other markets because there's this real openness.
So a question we haven't prepped for, but I'm just throwing it out there. If you're an Israeli businesswoman or a businessman landing in Dubai, and you're saying, I just want to figure out what's happening here, what would be the first place you'd go to?
So I think it depends a little bit on the industry that you're working with, and I would firstly reach out to, you know, a government entity that is, you know, in that particular industry sector. So, you know, you can have an introduction with them to begin with, whether that's the Chamber of Commerce, whether it's the FinTech Hive, or the free zones themselves really are there to attract new customers. So you can go to the free zone of Internet City and say, look, we're a company. This is what we do. We're interested in setting up a company in your area. Tell me about the market. Tell me who I need to get connected to. And the free zones are there to attract companies. They will go and they will explain things to you and, you know, really guide you in the right direction in that regard.
Got it. So any kind of panel or moderation would not be, I think, whole without using the expression an elephant in the room, even if it's completely irrelevant. So there's an elephant in the room, Saudi, which is obviously not part of the deal. But some companies in Israel, for them, it's considered the holy grail, given the size of the market, the size of the country. So if we were to be optimistic and assume that the accords that we're seeing will translate into additional warming up with Saudi, are there any implications for Israeli companies thinking about the UAE today? Any steps that they should take today to make sure that they're prepped to if and when this market and other markets in the region open up?
Now, I think there's good lessons learned from many other companies around the world who have been thinking about the GCC. And there's a
just to be clear, Godfrey, for those who are unfamiliar, the GCC would be the broader region, including Saudi.
Exactly, the Gulf Cooperation Council. So these are the 6 countries of the predominantly oil-rich Arab states. So, you know, and as you say, the big prize is Saudi Arabia. So what many other international companies have done is use Dubai as a cultural and logistical stepping stone to the broader region, and particularly Saudi Arabia. And in that respect, I think if your longer term play is Saudi, I think setting up an operation in the UAE, and again, these free zones, it's not very expensive to do, you know, you can have a presence, but in Dubai, particularly pre-corona, you know, every Saudi holiday, the UAE was just full of Saudis, you know, and it's a great place to make connections with the Saudi community in the UAE before things begin to happen in Saudi Arabia. And I think many of the Saudi big family businesses will be thinking about how can they leverage these opportunities, and are probably, you know, many of them beginning already to explore conversations around deals that could be made.
Got it. So Godfrey, we still have room for just a couple of questions, just so everybody is aware of the timeline, and if anyone wants to submit additional question. Most Israeli companies thinking about this agreements, I think, in how they can monetize on the market there, issues that we should consider in terms of talent, both in terms of Israeli startups and even relocation opportunities for Israeli talent.
Yeah, absolutely. The big gap in the UAE is on the talent side. So in Abu Dhabi, and it's hard to find people. You know, we're going to the guys in London, particularly at the COVID time. You've got to leave London, your family and your friends, and ship your family over to the UAE. So attracting talent is is a big challenge. And I think that there will be a great openness for Israeli, particularly the tech talent. I know specific companies that are looking explicitly at Israeli tech talent to come over to the UAE. So I think there's.
Can you offer an example? Like, what do you mean? UAE-based companies thinking about Israeli talent?
So I know financial services institutions now who are proactively going to the Israeli market, looking to recruit tech talent in Israel.
And there's actual conversation, Godfrey, just so I'm clear, of let's think about whether we can bring an R&D person from Israel.
Absolutely. I was in a conversation last week with a senior Israeli banker about coming over, working for an Abu Dhabi entity. 2 weeks in Abu Dhabi, 2 weeks back in Israel, long-term contract. I know a government entity that is looking at, how they can incentivize recruitment of Israelis into the market.
All right, so I think that's headline right there. If there's indeed conversation taking place within banks on how to bring, say, an Israeli CTO, maybe this is even more mature than we had in mind. And I think in our prior conversation when we prepped for this, Godfrey, I think for me what was surprising was, I think you said something to the effect, talent is talent. If you could bring tech talent, they'll take tech talent. If you could bring something else, they'll take something else. For the UAE, it's just a big global pot of talent that if it could be used, they'd be happy to collaborate now that the accords are out of the gate. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's tremendous openness. The UAE is very commercially orientated. They want to develop the economy. They want to diversify away from oil. The faster they can do that, the faster they can build up sustainable businesses, the better it is for the future of the country. And it's an ambitious nation, right? They have a plan for 2071. For the next 50 years, which has been formulated. They want to go to Mars. There's the Museum of the Future, Dubai Future Foundation. Is very forward-looking. They see to compete in the world, we need to be at the cutting edge of innovation, and we need the right talent to enable us to get there.
Right. So, Godfrey, maybe just last wrap up the question. This is fantastic. Before I pass this back to Zeev and we break out to the room, if you could pick any technology, any sector, any type of company, what would be the offer that you think has the most chances of succeeding in the UAE? So like, wow, if you as a company, an Israeli company, you've got that's a big deal.
Yeah. So I think there was a change in the government structure a couple of months ago. They created a new ministry, the Ministry of Industries and Advanced Technologies. And I think that there's particular importance around that. So the whole set of technologies around Industry 4.0 and automation and AI I think is a very interesting area that I think the companies in that space will do well. As you see on one of our slides, there's a number of others that are important, but I think the Industry 4.0 is going to be a big push. There's a very influential gentleman at the top of the ministry who's got a mandate to really push the country forward in that area. So that's certainly interesting.
This is fantastic, Godfrey. I'm not saying goodbye to you yet because we're going to pass on to the fintech, but this has really been very interesting for me personally to hear you speak. Do you have any parting words for the plenary session?
Yes, thank you very much. It was really, really, really interesting. So thank you very much. So we're going to say goodbye from everybody now because after we're going to split into the rooms, we're not going to reconvene. So again, thank you very much for everybody from TPY, Guy, for this lovely moderation, and to the BCG team. And I just again want to reiterate the fact that we will send you our contact details of the Chamber of Commerce for the Israeli companies here. If you guys also would want to interact with the BCG or with TPI, we can share with you their information as well. And also to I remind you that we have signed both agreements with the Jebel Ali Free Trade Zone and the Dubai Airport Free Trade Zones, which is the two largest free trade zones in the UAE, and we have a special benefit package for Israeli companies to go through them as well. So thank you very much, guys, and without further ado, Shai, are you going to...
Yes, I'm just going to say a quick note to all our participants. If anyone by any chance got in the wrong room, just send me a message on the chat box so I can switch you out. And that's it. I'm going to open the rooms and we'll see you soon.
That's it. Good luck. Stay tuned. Don't leave. Press join.
אין לי מושג מה את רואה על המסך. אוקיי.
Rooms, or if you are in the wrong room, please reach out through the chat to switch rooms. So with us today, Beatrice Lemuki from BCG Dubai, who's gonna speak with us about government tech. So I'll start off with a brief introduction of Beatrice. So she's been a partner with BCG Dubai.
אני צריכה שאו שתבואי לפה או שממש תצעקי.
Shai, you're not muted.
שיט. אוי. אוקיי, אבל אני בחדר אחד ובחדר שתיים במקביל.
So, from BCG Dubai, who's been based in the region for more than 10 years. She worked across all GCC countries and more recently has been focused on UAE. Within the UAE, Beatrice has been active on economic development, Emiratization, and COVID response related topics. Beatrice, great to have you here. You've co-authored, thank you, buongiorno. You've co-authored a BCG report about diversity in the government and in private organizations across the GCC. The region must know or learn about government and diversity in the region.
Yes, so Dekel, thank you. Thanks a lot for asking this question. I saw it was also in the chat box in the plenary on how are women entrepreneurs expected to behave in the UAE and in Dubai in general. So I think there's quite a bit of misconception on women in the workplace in the UAE. First of all, I think I would start by saying that across the GCC countries, there is so you position them on a spectrum on where you have on one extreme you have the most liberal countries that where you would feel in a more kind of westernized environment, and for sure Dubai would be on one extreme of the spectrum. And then following that, you probably have Abu Dhabi that, as Godfrey was saying, is slightly more conservative than that. Then you have Kuwait, also slightly more conservative than Dubai. And then lastly, probably Saudi, which traditionally is the place that has been more conservative. However, it's also changing very, very fast and rapidly. And having worked myself for almost 4 years in Saudi, I can say that the change was actually visible on almost on a daily basis. But if we focus on the UAE, I would say, so first of all, there is a distinction between Dubai and Abu Dhabi. Dubai tends to be more liberal also because you have a much bigger share of expats, both based in the country. So about 80% of the population is expats, and you have a huge inflow of tourists. So Dubai has between 13 and 15 million tourists per year. International tourists, international and GCC tourists, which means that brings a quite multi-ethnic society and community that you engage with. Abu Dhabi tends to be more conservative. It's more family oriented. It has a much smaller share of tourists. But overall, I would say, I think I'm the living example of a woman having worked for many years and also progressed in the career in the UAE and in general across the GCC. As you said, I've been based there for 10 years and I've worked in all GCC countries. And what I've observed in the last 10 years is that by far we see many more women in senior client positions. When I first moved to the Middle East, probably it was quite rare to have women in DG or CEO or minister level positions. So this has changed drastically in the last 10 years. So you would definitely find an absolute gender mixed environment, both in Dubai and in Abu Dhabi in terms of government entities. But similarly around you, like pretty much in any profession, more so in Dubai than in Abu Dhabi, you would forget sometimes that you are in the Middle East environment. I also often get questions on the dress code, which may seem trivial, but it still happens quite a lot on the dress code and on the separation of workspace. So on the dress code, first of all, yes, if you interact with local and in the government, the vast majority of employees are UAE nationals. So about 90% of UAE nationals are employed by the government. So the vast majority of UAE nationals work for government entities. And locals would always tend to wear abaya. They would always wear their abaya, not cover the full face, but they would wear their abaya. But as an expat, you're not expected to cover it. And I still get this question quite a lot. Of course, you have to wear a professional attire, but that's as expected as in any other country. The other question I get quite a bit is on space segregation and having different dedicated areas and workspace for women and men. This is not the case in the UAE. It's not the case in Dubai, it's not the case in Abu Dhabi, and it's not the case in the federal government. It is still the case in KSA, in certain entities, but since we're focusing on the UAE, today there are open spaces and absolutely gender mix. Having said that, I think it's important that when you move or if you start a business in the UAE, that you learn about the local customs, right? The local culture, like the local dynamics. So you don't want to be arriving in the UAE and have a business meeting and asking questions exactly about gender or segregation or women in the workplace or women with kids. So these are things that normally are not discussed and would not be. I think they would show that you're new to the region and there is very little knowledge and background information on how you operate in Dubai and Abu Dhabi.
This is a very important point, Beatrice. We Israelis sometimes tend to think that, being both in the Middle East, we have similar cultures in terms of private space. So a word of caution here to all the Israelis in the ocean, in the earth. There's no Dugri or Tachlis approach in the region. Do your homework.
Exactly, yes.
Maybe moving on to the public sector or the government as a potential client or a partner. The EU has been in the forefront of government innovation. When you look today on what are the most important challenges for the federal or Emirati government, what could be potentially solved by innovative GovTech companies?
Yes, so thank you, Dekil. Maybe we can quickly jump to the first slide and that. So UAE governments, and when I say UAE government, I'm also thinking about Dubai and Abu Dhabi, given that they are the dominant emirates. They have 4 key aspirations. So first of all is diversify away from oil, diversify the economy, and increase the contribution of GDP from other sectors. And when we say other sectors, we really mean knowledge-driven clusters, knowledge-driven sectors. The second point, which is very relevant for this discussion, is also the ambition and the objective to enable SMEs by expanding access to finance and reducing their cost of operating in the UAE, and also facilitating access to procurement. Number 3 is accelerating FDI by simplifying investment processes. And then lastly is enhancing livability for all residents. And here I want to emphasize all, because this means both nationals and expats that want to establish and have a career in the UAE by reducing their cost of living and improving the overall quality of life. So as you can see across these objectives, which are quite high level, there is a big focus on anything that would diversify the economy away from oil, attracting SMEs, bringing talent, and ensuring that people can have a prosperous life in the UAE and can remain for long. Now, if I have to think more specifically about sectors that I think could be interesting for startups from, or in general companies from Israel, maybe Alad, you can jump to the last slide of this chapter. So I have picked 3 specifically. Yes, exactly. So I picked these 3 ones because I feel that they are very much top of mind at the moment, and there's a lot of discussions happening on it. So agri-tech is becoming a strategic priority for the UAE, and obviously Israel has always been at the forefront of this sector. COVID-19 brought up agri-tech related issues even higher in the agenda, because as you know, the region UAE imports most of the food from abroad. And due also to the complexity in logistics and shipment during the 2020 in general, so the government is looking at technology innovation that would enable farming in the desert area. That's one topic. The next one on this is on efficiency and water desalination. So this would also still be linked to the same topic. And there's already been multiple investments made in this space. So IDEO, which is Abu Dhabi Investment Office, invested about 400 million dirhams, so $50 million, to bring agri-tech companies to Abu Dhabi. And it's as recent as 2 weeks ago that Abu Dhabi announced the plan to build the world's largest indoor farm, which is through a joint venture from Grow Group from the Netherlands and Abu Dhabi Rainmakers Capital. So this is something which I think is very high on the agenda for the UAE. There is already being investments made, and also very relevant for Israeli companies. The second point here is on genomics. So there has been a strong public sector-led investment from the Department of Health to study and research the Arabic genome. And the most innovative, the biggest project happening is called the Genome Program, which is a national project set up to study the Arabic genome to improve health and well-being of the Arabic population. And this was launched last year by, the Department of Health and Group 42. And then the last one I had here would be on Internet of Things. And also here, I included this one because ADNOC, so Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, has been already active in this space, partnered with local tech companies to develop IoT and AI use cases for the oil sector. So there is already a track record of implementing IoT applications across different infrastructural assets, such as ports and airports.
Thank you, Beatrice. Very interesting point. I remind everybody that the presentation will be made available after the webinar, so you can reference back as well as the recording of this webinar. Thank you very much, Beatrice.
Thank you.
And now I would like to invite Mr. Massimiliano Massi.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Buongiorno. Marhaba.
Buongiorno.
It's really a pleasure having you here with us today, Massimiliano. Massimiliano, I will introduce you. You are a partner in the energy practice at BCG Dubai. You have more than 20 years of experience in the power and utilities space. He worked with major utilities in the region and is an expert in go-to-market value-added services, renewables energy efficiency, circular economy, and smart cities. Prior to joining BCG, Massimiliano has been working in Europe in the roles of CFO and CEO of power and utilities listed companies covering a number of sectors, including waste, water, power, and gas. So Massimiliano, looking at the clean tech value chain, all the way from production through storage, transmission, and consumption, how do you see the near and the long-term future of the region? And what are the technologies that you consider are most relevant and promising for the region?
Yeah, thanks, Dekel, for the introduction. If we go to the next slide, I think here in UAE, there are five major topics. The first one is about climate change and energy transition. As we know, there is a transition from oil towards renewables. It is a super strong trend here. There are very, very sizable programs of investments that will bring not only, of course, capacity to renewables, so solar, in the case of UAE, but also the entire ecosystem will be growing around these renewables, because of course when you bring renewables and you replace fossil fuels, you need to have data, you need to have a different way of managing the grids, you need to have additional services that can be provided to the final customers. So this is the first big thing that will change the energy mix in the next 10 years. Then waste management. There is a strong, of course, position of landfills here in UAE, but I should say in the region. And there is a push towards waste-to-energy plants, recycling, circular economy. So this is another incredible opportunity to provide technologies and solutions to the market. Of course, water resources, we already touched this. Water is scarce, desalinization will be a major topic, and the use of water also not only for civil industrial, but also for agri-tech in the desert is a major emerging trend. Then, of course, everything that is connected with the clean air and pollution. There is no still incentives or a market for instance, CO2 as in other parts of the world. But typically, in order to push on these technologies, we will need to have incentives. So if you have solution here, this is a great area to consider. And then, of course, biodiversity, habitats, and cultural heritage. This is very important for tourism. This is very important for leveraging on the beauty of this country. So those are the five areas that I envisage as most important.
Thank you, Massimiliano. So indeed, each one of those is a huge subject in itself. So when you think of a small and medium-sized business startup that is seeking to develop business relation in the UAE, and considering the vast resources that the country has, all the way from basic research in the academia to major energy corporations and government entities, what would be the go-to-market strategy advice for a clean tech startup?
Okay, if we go to the last slide of this section, please. Yes. So you need to consider that in UAE there are national champions. So you have sectors that are very concentrated in the national champion. For instance, you have DIWA here in Dubai is the operator for generation, transmission, distribution. It covers electricity and water, with some nuances also on waste. If you go in Abu Dhabi, you have TAQA, that is, I mean, one of the top 10 million players in utilities. If you go in another emirate, Sharjah, you have BIA, that is a super positioned in advanced waste management. Probably you know about Masdar in Abu Dhabi. That is the, let's say, one of the best and the most forward-looking company in renewables. In Abu Dhabi, you have also IRENA, the International Renewables Energy Agency. So you have a lot of national champions and even international champions. So the best approach I should suggest and should advise is really to create a sort of roadshow. So as in a roadshow, you need to sell to this champion, to meet this champion, the business development manager of these companies, with your pitch, and of course be very specific in what advantage and benefit you can bring to the specific area of your competence. And they will for sure, as we've seen in the general session, there is a culture of excellence. So they will have all the benchmarks ready. They will ask you, how do you position against these benchmarks? What is the benefit you can bring in 1, 5, 10 years? And so you will start a dialogue. And in this area, I mean, it's very important to create trust and relationship. So you cannot sell everything at the first pitch, but you should create also a relationship with the business development departments, meaning that basically then you can follow up, you can have other meetings. So my advice is really to sell your strength. Don't be in a rush to, of course, conclude a deal in the short term, and build the relationship. Starting with these large players, they are very available to meet companies. They do it, I mean, on a daily basis. If you go on their website, you will find in their section a number of experience they are doing internationally. So it's a very attractive environment to speak with them.
That's really helpful and practical advice, Massimiliano. You've been involved in many projects. If you can think of a specific project that you've done with a clean tech related company, can you share some insights of the do's and don'ts, and what are the what does it take to really make it into a successful business relationship beyond the initial pitch?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's very important, of course, to make your homework and study. I mean, what are the needs of these companies, for instance, because basically they are in charge of delivering on the solution that the government is asking them to provide. If we go, sorry, to the second slide. Sorry for going back. Yes, the next one. Yes, this one. So you will see that in UAE there is a strong attitude to planning in the long term, and this is super important because you see a number of programs here, and if you Google any of these names, you will find a very detailed planning in 20, 30, and even 50 years from now. So prepare do your homework, prepare your pitch, but then consider that, I mean, in terms of do's, you need to create this relationship. And I can bring you an example. For instance, in the energy efficiency space, that there is an incredible work to do. So there are some successful ESCOs and some unsuccessful ESCOs. In order to succeed, typically, you cannot go to a client, an industrial or commercial client, and sell your solution. You need to create this relationship, and then, of course, show that the solutions are win-win. Because if solutions are not win-win, they will not buy on your proposal, even if it's super good. So if you have a open book posture and attitude, this is very important. And of course, if you are also leveraging on some local partner, this will accelerate the commercial attitude of the customers. For instance, if you are an energy service company, you want to basically address the commercial market, you can go and meet some of the important families here, and of course provide them what are the advantages of your solutions, and basically you will enter into the largest mall of UAE. Similarly for hospitality, similarly for other sectors, for other areas. It's important also to, of course, be consistent with the strategies that you have here. So the more you leverage on the direction and the drivers of these strategies, the better chances you have to succeed. If you bring something that is disruptive, fine, but it's going to be aligned with these strategies. So the other advice is also to study a little bit what are the macro directions of the government, and basically you will be able to leverage all your competence, data analytics, artificial intelligence. So even if it's not, I mean, highly intensive in terms of capex, also the data sector is everywhere. So this is very important for the clean tech as well.
Yeah, so those strategic initiatives are publicly available in the government websites.
Yes, absolutely, everything is available, yes.
Great, thank you very much. Back to you, Beatrice, you wanted to...
Yes, Declan, thank you. I wanted to address a couple of quick questions that I saw in the chat box. If you can jump to slide 2. So there was a question on how do you access investors. So there were 2 things I wanted to share. On the next page, I would briefly mention this initiative, AB71, which is based in Abu Dhabi, and essentially it's an incubator for startups to provide support in the early stages. So they provide that across the board in terms of state-of-the-art workspace. They provide access to ADGM, which is the regulatory framework following the English common law, so more business-friendly. They also provide comprehensive coverage of housing and healthcare costs for all the employees, valid for up to 3 years, and access to specific entrepreneurship support programs. So I think this could be a good example of a place to start with. The next one on the next slide is an initiative that I think could also be interesting for the companies willing to work with the government. So this is 10X. It's an initiative that was launched, this is specifically for Dubai, where every entity of the Dubai government was required to work with a startup and bring innovative solution to solve different problems of the government entities. And there are a few examples here. Lastly, I think there was a question about speaking Arabic, and to answer very quickly to that, I mean, Massimiliano and myself clearly don't speak Arabic, but of course it's a plus. So obviously the ability to speak Arabic would allow you to build a stronger connection, stronger relationship. It's very much a relationship driven culture. It has quite a lot of similarities with our Italian culture for certain things. So Arabic is definitely a plus. You can operate and do well also not speaking Arabic, but if you're considering to establish a business there, you would definitely need, if you're not Arabic speaker, you would definitely, or I think it would be encouraged, like advisable to have some Arabic speaking employees.
Great point, Beatrice. We're fortunate to have a few millions Arab speakers. So I would encourage all the Israeli companies present here
I think this one, what be